Hi, I'm Mack, and I'm on a mission to see the hurting get healed and the healed go out and heal others, in order for all of us to experience the true love and light we desire. This podcast is me sharing my journey with you, so you don't feel alone in your journey. Welcome to the Golden Rule Revolution. Hello, brothers and sisters, and welcome back to another episode of the Golden Rule Revolution. I am Mack, and thank you so much for joining. I'm really honored to bring my guest on today, Israel Silva. Israel and I went to high school together, and there was a moment in high school where he had a tremendous impact on me. He's a year younger than me, but he has a huge presence, and I've always considered him a beautiful soul. I happened to have a dream a few weeks back, and Israel showed up in the dream. And I reached out to him on Facebook and said, hey, I don't know, what you would think of this. It probably sounds weird, but I had a dream of you where you stood up for me in my dream. And it's very similar to what he did in real life more than 20 years ago. And he and I reconnected, had a beautiful conversation. And I said, I have to have you on the podcast. I need you to share your story and your heart with the world. So I'm really honored to bring on Israel Silva. Now, Israel's background is incredibly impressive. He is a wrestling coach and a wrestler himself. He's a state champion wrestler in college. He two-time All-American in the junior college that he went to, and then went and wrestled at D1 school. But I want to read his highlights, his bio, because I think this is incredibly impressive. Once his collegiate wrestling career wrapped up, Israel Silva put together an impressive post-collegiate career on the international wrestling stage. He is a 4-time world team member for Mexico, 3-time freestyle Pan American medalist, and was a 2012 Olympic alternate over his 7 years of international experience. He is, like I said, a 2-time junior college All-American at North Idaho College, and he placed second at the national tournament his sophomore year and was a third as a freshman. Silva led the team to the junior college national championship in 2002. Like I said, he won state title as a junior and then wrestled for the state title senior year. And he'll talk about that experience. But truly, it's not about his stats as a wrestler. It's about his heart and who this man is. And we need more men to step into the fullness of their masculinity, but also come from the heart, which Israel does. So I'm really honored to bring my brother on. And I hope this blesses each and every one of you. Well, brothers and sisters, like I told you, this man right here, Israel Silva, is a blessing to me. And I don't use that word lightly. Israel, brother, thanks for coming on the podcast.
No, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be beautiful.
Man. So, I, as all good reunions happen, I reached out to you and said, hey, man, you were in my dream the other night, and I pinged you, and I didn't know, truly, I wasn't sure how much you would remember me or connect, like if you would have responded at all. And it was such an honor to get a message back from you. And then we hopped on a call, and I was just beaming. I've told my wife, this man, your family is beautiful. The impact I see you having, you're a leader of men, and you are an example of what men get to be in this world. So, brother, thank you for responding to the call when I reached out.
No, of course. I had no reservations at all. Like, I was looking forward to, seeing what you were up to, what's going on, So it was a pleasure of mine.
Man. So we met in high school, and I just knew you as one tough dude, but incredibly big heart. I always knew you had just the biggest heart, and I don't know if I would have said it back then because I didn't have the language set, but in hindsight, you loved people, and where we grew up was pretty rough. There's a lot of hurting kids that hurt other kids on the regular. And you and I kind of, I think, with all that, you were an athlete, I was an athlete, but then there was these other crowds that could pull people in. And I think we're all kind of in, but on the the peripheral of those crowds.
Yeah, I think we did enough not to get in trouble.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
exactly.
we kind of we towed the line a little bit, but we kind of came to our senses like that's a little too much. I mean,
Yeah,
let me pull the reins back a little bit.
yeah. So tell me, I mean, I want to hear about your story of how you even came to Marysville, Washington, where we met, but also you've been on this incredible wrestling journey. And
Yeah.
uh so before we get into wrestling, I mean, explain your life of where you were born and how you ended up coming to Marysville where you and I met.
All right. I was born in Mexico, Ensenada, Mexico, and didn't spend much time there. I was not even 1 year old when I was able to illegally come across the border somehow.
Yeah.
So I lived in Southern California, Orange County, for about 10 years, and then in early '90s, my mom remarried and moved us from Southern California to Tulalip Indian Reservation, right outside of Marysville.
Wow.
But my mom, I had a lot of cousins and different family members that weren't doing the right things, gang members, different things. And my mom kind of noticed that I was intrigued by that, and she wanted that nothing, for me to do with that,
Right.
So she had the right of mind to kind of move me and my sisters to, Marysville, Washington, and it was out of like fear that she didn't want to see me in jail or dead, as I grew up, because that was the path that my family was on, and that was probably the best decision my mom ever made. Until to this day, we speak about it. And my number one motivation for everything that I do, everything that I've accomplished, has been my mom and her thinking about that and moving us out of Southern California. So any title that I've won, any degree that I've earned, I always say it's for my mom, and the motivation was to make my mom proud. So yeah, she moved us in the early '90s, and we moved there, Indian reservation, way different than Southern California, but I kind of started being around natives from the Indian reservation and other people, and then just got into sports. And I think if I was in Southern California, I would have never, been involved in sports. So I'm also grateful for the Tulalip Indian Reservation. I thought I was a Native American. I was part of the tribe because I was there, and they paid for all my trips, and I travel basketball, like all these things, and then I still, go back and speak to elementary schools out there. But yeah, so I moved into Washington when I was about 10 years old.
Wow. Wow. And when did you get your first taste of wrestling?
That's a good story. So I was at the Marysville Middle School, and I still had a little bit of that, street mentality, when I was in Southern California, and I was getting suspended from school, and I don't know if Mr. Lowry was the principal back then.
Oh yeah.
I think you went to Cedar Crest, right?
I went to Marysville Middle School in my 6th grade year and then switched to Cedar Crest. So I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Lowry, he was the middle school wrestling coach. And I also had Mr. Shaw, who was my homeroom teacher. They were the wrestling coaches. So Mr. Lowry said, "Hey, I won't suspend you if you come out for the wrestling team." And that conversation changed my life.
Wow.
And before then, I played, I was a big kid. I was a heavyweight, all through my career, but I played, travel basketball, select soccer and all those things. So I was an athletic heavyweight. So then when I switched over to wrestling, my first 2 years of wrestling, I never lost a match because I was big, strong, and athletic. I was like, man, I'm the man here in this individual sport. I'm maybe going to make the middle school team, so I just put all my eggs into the wrestling basket and then started wrestling year round at my 8th grade year.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
I actually remember when I was in 6th grade at Marysville Middle School in PE, they still had wrestling. They had you wrestle. Yeah. They don't do stuff like that, I don't think, in schools anymore.
No, and they should. We had a wrestling unit. I think it was, I don't know how many weeks, but then at the end of it, you wrestled in this tournament in front of the whole school.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that was the best thing for kids, get them out of their comfort zone, get them to taste defeat a little bit, a little discomfort, and then let them deal with it.
Well, I've never wrestled besides that PE experience in 6th grade, but for you to get on the mat with another with another guy. What goes through your mind? What went through your mind when you were early on, and what continued?
Early on, I love the attention. You know what I mean? Because I was the big man on campus. I never lost. You know what I mean? I would pin guys right away. So early on, it was about the attention.
Mm.
And then, like I said, I don't know if you remember Tom Shaw, Mr. Shaw,
Yeah.
homeroom teacher. He passed away. And I was fortunate to speak at his funeral. But
Wow.
he was my homeroom teacher. You know what I mean? So we had a wrestling unit in homeroom. But his son Brian Shaw, and they kind of opened my eyes to like college wrestling, Olympic level wrestling, wrestling around the world and stuff like that. So I was like, man, I want to wrestle. Actually, if another funny story, even before I got really serious, Mr. Shaw, he's like, hey, what do you want to do? And I was like, hey, I want to play basketball at Georgetown. And he's like, Izzy, there's not very many 5'10" Mexicans playing college basketball. You need to wrestle. So he kind of like shot my dreams down to play college basketball at Georgetown. That's when, Alonzo Mourning, Patrick
Yeah.
Ewing were coming at Georgetown. I thought I was going to be 7 feet tall.
That's awesome.
But he kind of shot me down and said, hey, let's be realistic. You can actually have a shot at wrestling, high level wrestling and wrestling in college. So really from that day, that's when I started wrestling year round.
Wow.
And then I just got consumed by it. I followed it. I read, he had all these, magazines of USA Wrestler, and I would every single day, I wasn't the best reader. So he said, hey, read this, So he was teaching me how to be a better reader, but then he's also kind of exposing me to like, the wrestling world.
Wow.
From that day, I was consumed by the sport. Still, I am consumed by the sport still to this day.
Amazing. Amazing. So when you and I think when you and I first met, even though, I'd known who you were through sports in town, but was in high school. And high school is really when you started getting statewide attention, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Back then, the high school was, just 10, 11, 12. Remember that? And the junior highs were eighth and ninth grade. So
Yeah.
as a freshman, I would take the bus to the high school because I made varsity as a freshman, for the wrestling team.
Wow.
So I'd bus to the school and I was wrestling on the varsity team. I qualified for the state tournament my freshman year. So then I
Wow.
was already, got a bigger taste of it, and then my sophomore year when I was at the high school, I was one of the only sophomores that started on the football team,
Wow.
on the defensive end, if you remember that,
Yeah.
so it just, I think it came natural. I was an aggressive kid. I was an athletic kid. And I had, even back then, I had the belief in myself. Like, I didn't care about upperclassmen. I didn't care about this. Like, I thought I was going to win the state championship as a freshman,
Mm.
and I was like, why can't I try out for the football team as a freshman? I had a naive belief in myself back then.
But a beautiful self-belief. I mean, that's a gift to have, that
Yeah.
belief in self. Let me ask you this. I don't know the answer. I don't think we've ever talked about it, but where was your dad? And do you have any contact with him?
No. So, my dad, later on, as I got older, I was raised by my mom and my aunts, my uncles.
Mhm.
But my mom, when we were very young in Mexico, she left my dad. So my dad was an abusive person. Very abusive to my older sisters. He actually
Mm.
had, I believe, 29 kids with 11 different women. It's
Wow.
wild. Um,
Wow.
and still to this day, some of the siblings on the Silva side like try to reach out, but I was like, my sisters have contact with them. I don't want any contact with them. It's like
Yeah.
I don't need them in my life. I don't yearn to like know that side of the family.
Yep. I get it.
But yeah, and then when I was in seventh grade, he passed away.
Mm.
But I felt no emotion, no attachment, nothing. It was just, I moved on. I have a stepfather. My mom got remarried after she got married to who she's married to now. They've been married for about 20 years, and I
Mm.
consider him. I know he was around later in my life, but I give that man all the
Beautiful.
respect and the glory to like call my father.
Beautiful brother.
He's
Yeah.
always been there. He's wonderful to my mom. He's a great man. His name's
Mm.
Richard Rice, and he's the guy that I call my father.
Mm. Beautiful. Beautiful. Did that give you did you have a chip on your shoulder? Do you feel like was that ever a drive of proving your masculinity, your manhood in some way?
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
Not even a little bit. I think my biggest drive, like I said, is my mom.
Cool.
Yeah, man. She to me, she's the strongest person that I've ever met. Yeah, man. She would work two jobs. She'd work, at the Motel 6. Man. And she also like showed us to be self sufficient. We're me and my sisters when we're in elementary school, middle school, like we were cooking dinners because
Mm,
we wanted to have we wanted our mom to come home and have a home cooked meal.
wow.
We weren't waiting for her. We were doing our own laundry. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah.
she was all and my siblings and I, we've all gone to college, we all have degrees, like, and it's because of her.
Wow.
So there was no chip on my shoulder. I think the void of not having a father was filled by awesome wrestling coaches that I had, when I first
That,
started,
yeah. Yeah.
Coach Lowry, Coach Shaw, Coach Iverson at the high school, what I mean? And then even it continued, in my college years. Like I've had strong mentors, father figures in my life that I never felt that I missed it or had anything that I was missing.
That's amazing. That
Yeah.
really is. That's really beautiful. So your senior year, were you wrestling the same guys? Like, were you competing year after year from when you were like freshman? You probably, I mean, those guys probably graduated off, right? You were wrestling seniors, I'm sure at the time, or juniors, right? When you were younger.
Yep. I wrestled upperclassmen. They graduated. My sophomore year, I was probably still a little bit too young. I took fifth or sixth in the state. I can't remember. But then my junior year, I won a state title. I think I won 80 plus matches in a row, my senior year. And I don't know if you know this or remember, but I got upset by my last match of my senior year.
That's right.
So I was going for my second state title, 80 plus matches in a row, and I got upset in the finals. But it was deserving. I kind of got lazy my senior year. I
Hmm.
hadn't got touched. I probably wasn't doing the right things. I was partying a little bit, and then I took it for granted. So the
Hmm.
motivation that I had to win my first title my junior year, it wasn't there my senior year.
Wow.
Because it became easy.
Right.
And it kind of bit me in the butt, which
What'd you learn from that?
I it drove me. I think that win drove me to wrestle. I probably wrestled 12 years after that match. I wrestled 2 Olympic cycles after that, but I never, anytime I stepped on the mat after that, I left no stone unturned. I made sure that I
Hmm.
was as strong as I could be. I was prepared as I could be, studying film, studying my opponents, and I was in the best condition of my life.
Wow.
I never left it to chance because the only reason I lost because I was out of shape. He wasn't a better wrestler than me. They had a good game plan and they slowed me down, and I kind of got gas in the match and I lost in overtime. So
Wow.
everything that's in anything that's in my power, those three things: the study, the conditioning, and the strength, and the preparation. I made sure that I did that. Going forward.
What a great lesson that you could share though, to win, expect to win the second time, but you weren't there mentally, and that's amazing that you could
Yeah, and
share.
that's the life lesson that I give to my boys now.
Hmm.
Anything that's in our control, we're going to make sure we have that. The wins and losses will take care of themselves. But anytime you guys step on the mat, you're going to feel prepared. You're going to know that we've done everything in our preparation to give us the best chance of winning.
Wow. Where'd you go after high school?
After high school, like I said, I was getting recruited at a lot of Division I schools, but um, with my mom, my mom didn't go to school past fourth grade.
Wow.
So academics weren't a thing that she knew about, and neither did we. I didn't know until it was time to like get recruited and send my transcripts to schools that I was way behind, that I
Hmm.
wasn't going to qualify to go to Division I. And I was like, man. So I went to junior college. I went to North Idaho Junior College in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and that was to me that was a blessing, to be there as well. I went there and I was a two-time All-American. We were team national champions, and then I got to go to Division I after that. So I
Wow.
went to the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga.
That's so cool, brother.
Yeah,
That's so cool to see different parts of the country like that too. Idaho and then Tennessee.
yeah. And when I was highly recruited out of junior college, And at the time, this coach named Terry Brands, they're at the University of Iowa now, him and his twin brother, Tom and Terry Brands. He called me. And like I said, I was a student of wrestling. I followed the Olympics, I followed NCAA. So he called me and I didn't know where Tennessee Chattanooga was. I didn't know what division it was. I said, I want to go wrestle with that guy. Like, that's the guy that, like, he put it in my mind that you're going to wrestle to try to win world Olympic titles.
Wow.
So I credit him, why I wrestled 2 Olympic runs, post college.
Amazing. What'd you learn through? I mean, wrestling is very personal. I mean, that individual sport, but I mean, it's as primal as it gets with strategy. I mean, you're putting yourself and your soul and your body and your will out there. What have you learned about yourself, but also learned about humanity, I guess? What
I think what I've learned the most is I've had like many setbacks. Setback in high school with losing, setback of having to go to junior college right away. And then being ineligible my first year at Division One. And then only getting to wrestle 1 year, at the Division One level. Like that could have easily deterred anybody. Like, oh man, this isn't for me. Maybe I should do something else. Having my first child my junior year of college. And my wife and I, having to do that, like. But I had a goal, like I wanted to wrestle in the Olympics, and I had a goal that all I wanted to do was be a college wrestling coach, and give back to other people. And I never thought that it was never going to happen, and I was an alternate for the 2012 Olympic Games. I missed making the Olympics by 1 point,
wow.
But I look back and I was like, it was less about making the Olympics, but it was about the journey, the network, the people. I traveled to 30 different countries. Like, who I became while I was trying to be an Olympian was better than wrestling in the Olympics. Obviously it still hurts.
Yeah.
But I kind of take a step back and I reflect, like, who I become and the people that I've met and that are involved in my life, and even till this day they're still impacting my life. That's more important than anything. So setback after setback, it could have easily broke people, and the people could have just like done away with their dream, or gone and done a regular job, or got into drugs and alcohol. Like, to me, that was never an option. And like I said, it all comes back to, like, my mom worked so hard to put me in these positions.
Wow.
I can't give up and look back.
Amazing, brother. Everyone listening, I just want to share this. People know my story, listen to this podcast. They know, everything looked good on the outside. I'm sure you thought, I can't tell you how many people said, oh, I thought your family is perfect. In fact, I had a buddy tell me he judged his family against our family. Yeah. And I'm like, bro, I'm sorry, man, that it was all a lie, but brother, that's how I had to survive that way. My brother had to survive that way. But there was this time, and I don't think you remember it, but we were getting vandalized. Our house had, like, planter boxes were getting smashed in our driveway and all sorts of stuff. And I was a senior in high school, and I remember going to you and I was like, find out who it is and make it stop. And I don't know if you ever did or didn't, but it eventually stopped. And for me, who always felt afraid, this is one thing that I've had to really come into. I'm 6'3", 245. Like, I've always been a taller guy, but I was like a little kid in this body until I finally faced the fear of hurt and all the pain that I had experienced and stuff. But you, and this is what I reached out to you about, made such a massive impact, because I didn't go, here I am living in this house with a man that was constantly hurting me, but then putting this image out, and he told me to make it stop. And I have, what am I going to do? But you were the one I reached out to, brother. And you, I don't want to get emotional right now, but you really, just who you are as a man and the soul that is in your body and your purpose. And you just blessed me, bro, more than you can ever know. I just want you to
Uh,
know that.
Thank you. That means a lot. You know what I mean? That means a lot. And that's kind of how I live every day. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I'm a helper. I'm a giver. I want to share my experiences. I want to, if I can help somebody, with the network of people that I know and connect, like to me, that's kind of why I live. You know what I mean? One, yeah, I'm a family man. That's my number one thing, you know what I mean, in life. But, I want to help people. You know what I mean? I want to help people. If someone needs someone, lean on us, lean on and my wife's the same way. Like we say it all the time, like people, all her friends call her all the time. My wife's like the counselor, all her friends and they call and they reach out and I'm the same way. You know what I mean? If somebody needs something, they're struggling with something, they know that somehow we find the right words to say to, make people uh, help them with the situation they're going through. You know what I mean? And it's a responsibility that we take serious.
Amazing. Well, there's a couple of things. I mean, let's talk about you. You became a father of how many children?
I got 4 kids. I have a 19-year-old. Like I said, we got pregnant my junior year of, actually, it was our sophomore year. And this is an awesome story. My wife and I met. We were dating for I don't know if I told you this. We were dating for 3 months and she got pregnant.
Mm.
This is when we were in junior college. And, I got recruited and the coach at the time, I said, hey, coach, my girlfriend's pregnant. I don't know if that changes anything in the recruitment, but I just want to be upfront and honest. And he said, do you love her? I said, yes. He said, marry her. It'll be the best thing for your wrestling. And he was right. He was right. He's on, instead of, being out at the bars on Friday, Saturday night, chasing girls. So I was at home with my family.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I wasn't,
Wow.
doing all those bad, social things. You know what I mean? I was at home with my family. And really, when I needed a break from, my wife and my kid when I was younger, I went to go train,
Mm.
So I have,
That's
yeah. And now
amazing.
my son, uh, he's 19, just turned 19, and he's at, West Point, wrestling on a, full academic scholarship, one of the most prestigious schools in the country. He's over there wrestling and he's thriving.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then I have 2 twin boys that are just turned 14. And that was another cool story. She got pregnant again. We thought we only had one child, and then she was having complications. She was having bleeding, and we feared that she had a miscarriage.
Mm.
So she went into the doctor, to get checked out, and that's what we thought, she had a miscarriage. And the doctor said, no, everything looks fine. You have 2 embryos burrowing up there. And my wife's like, what? And
Wow.
she's like, yeah, you have 2 embryos. You're having twins. So we went from the fear of, having lost a child to now we have twins. So we're really blessed, and then 2 boys, and my boys do well. They're both nationally ranked in wrestling. They put a lot of work. They follow their, big brother's footsteps, so
Wow.
really happy to be part of their life and growing in the sport. They have the same love for the sport as I do. So it's been awesome. And then I have a daughter who will turn 4 in December. And really, she's the only child that's been planned. So
That's
we're at 35, 36 years old. My wife and I were like, hey, we're getting old. The kids are good. Like, if we're gonna have another child, like now's the time.
wow.
So we tried, and we got our daughter.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah,
amazing, brother.
and it's, to me, being a father, being a husband is all that I could have hoped for and wished for. Like,
Mm.
it's everything. I mean, to me, how hard I work, the different things I do, like it's all to provide for them, but also like lead by example, and show them the way, but also like leave a legacy. Like like I think about my kids talking to their kids and saying, "Hey, Grandpa did this for us. Grandpa did this. Grandpa started this." I mean, my son Tay at West Point wants to make a career out of it. And he's going to be very successful. I want to be remembered like, hey, Grandpa did this for us. I mean, or great grandpa. Like, that's the legacy that I'm working for every single day. I want, when people 20, 30, 40 years look back, they think like, oh man, Israel Silva left a legacy.
That's amazing.
And
That's
not a financial or anything like that, but just like, the
yeah.
how you speak of me, how others, stuff like that. Like, I want people to remember me and like, man, that guy made an impact in people's lives. I mean, he was
Mm.
selfless, he cared, and he worked his butt off.
There's a verse in the Bible in Proverbs that says, a good name is rather to be chosen than great riches. And you have a good name, brother.
Thank you.
A good name is rather to be chosen than great riches. And there's also a verse in Proverbs that says that a good man leaveth an inheritance for his children's children. And
Wow.
in the modern day culture that we've lived in, the word inheritance has been only about money.
Yeah.
But that's not the meaning of that term.
Not at all.
What did you inherit? You inherited something from your father that was a broken, your birth father, your biological father, which was brokenness and pain and trauma. But you've taken that and broken that cycle. And now the Silva name is the inheritance that you get to pass down, not of shame, but of honor. And that is an inheritance that you're going to leave to your children's children, brother.
And that's exactly, what it is and what I'm trying to do.
I know you coach a lot and you've seen a lot of young men enter that mat and that circle and get after it. What lessons do you think? I mean, I think what coaching athletics is a microcosm of how I think society at large can be. It's that inner battle and it's the integrity and there's no one else to blame. You have to take full responsibility and accountability for yourself and actions. What have you learned and what have you observed now coaching that humanity can take away? Like some lessons.
What do you mean? I mean, humanity can take, what are some things
what are things that people are missing that you're seeing that wrestling taught you?
I think with society now, the hard work, the discipline, is gone. They want the instant gratification. They're working towards something, the long-term goal, something every single day. And like I said, there's gonna be bumps in the road. There's gonna be failures, some of that. But if you really want something, you got to stick with it. You might not see the outcome for years down the road. I think just in my life, where I'm at right now isn't just happening right now. It's the 20 years of things that I've experienced that are making me really reflect and man, life is very, very good. But it was all that, So I think, with it's kind of why I got out of coaching a little bit, because it's a little bit more difficult with the entitlement, I think with parenting too, I don't want to call it old school, but I'm very old school with my parenting. Not in a hard way, harsh way, but it's hey, I'm gonna hold my kids accountable. I'm gonna talk to them why I discipline them, why it is what it is. I talk to my kids now, my middle school kids, my boys, hey, be okay. And this is a tough conversation. I was be okay with, as you get older, losing some of the friends that you were friends with as young kids, because as you get older, mom and I are going to be very tough on you and stuff like that. And these other parents are going to give their kids more freedom, to experience more freedom, to do a longer leash, to maybe try different things or be exposed to those things. We've seen it. I've spent 15 plus years coaching. I know what that looks like. I don't need to find out. So through my experiences, I'm protecting you. But at the same time, you might be missing out on a school dance or a sleepover, but I'm taking you all over the country and you're competing and you're around, these high level athletes, world champions, Olympic champions, see what they're doing. So I have those tough conversations. You might feel like you're missing out on something right now as a 13, 14, 15-year-old, but when you're 18, 19 and you're thriving, that's kind of what I'm working for. And now my son that's at West Point, he kind of talks to his little brothers. And now my son because we were butting heads because everything was results, everything was grades. I knew I never wanted to raise adult children. I don't want 25-year-old living in my house. I worked too hard for that. So that was one of my biggest fears and motivating factors, so like I was very hard on my son. You know, I mean, I pushed him hard. You know, in a good way. You know, I mean, to kind of he needed to reach his potential, and now he's at West Point, and some kids are getting homesick. Their parents did everything for him, and we didn't do that for him. And now, like the transition for him there has been easy. You
Wow.
know, and he's communicating to his brother. He sent an awesome message a few weeks back. He's like, Dad. He's like, boys, like I know it's not always easy. I know it's hard. I know Dad's doing this, but like trust what he's doing. Trust what he's doing because of that, you know, I'm in this situation. So for him to do that unsolicited, you know, and now, you know, we were speaking last night, you know, by text, and he's like, the relationship that he has with us, like we treat him like an adult because he's
Mm.
proven to be an adult now. I'm
Yeah.
not going to treat him like a little kid, you know what I mean? So the dynamic now, like it was rough in his 15 to 18, you know, because I had to make sure he reached his potential. Now it's like I backed off and like, you know, our relationship has never been better, you
Mm.
know, but it was my job not to be his friend or make it easy for him growing up. My job was to make sure that he had all my wife and I too. We had to set him up for success,
Mm.
you know. So when he has tough times, and there will be tough times when he's over there, he's prepared for them, you know, and he can always advise and some of that. But I think that's what's missing now in society and
Yeah.
parents is, you know, they don't want to be tough. They don't want to, you know, be canceled, or they don't want to be,
Right.
um, you know, their kids get mad at them. You know, I took my boys' phones away. I mean, because I didn't like the way that they were acting with each other. You know what I
Mm.
mean? They're kind of like throwing each other under the bus. They're talking crap to each other and stuff like that. So I was like, hey, I can't have that. So it's been 2 weeks now where I was like, hey, you guys, until I see you guys are able to treat each other better, because that's your brother. That's
Yeah.
gonna be the brother for the rest of your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't let friends come between you guys, some of that. So, you know, and I've noticed that the behaviors change, but most parents, you know, a day goes by, 2 days go by, they're gonna give them that phone back because, you know, they don't want to be, you know, mean or whatever. Like, no, we're sticking to our guns until we see that behavior change.
Amazing. I love that. I love that. So, what are you up to now? What I know you're doing some work outside of wrestling. Like, what's life like now for you?
I stepped away from college coaching. You know, I spent 15 years coaching Division One. I wanted to spend more time with my kids, you know, and I invest in so many kids that I needed to, you know, invest in my own, you know,
Mm.
because when you're a college coach, you're always competing, you're always traveling, you're recruiting. So I'm in the business sector. You know, I work for the largest independent moving company in California. You
Mm.
know, and I moved up to the executive level, which was a blessing. You know, I got hired with no experience, you know, and it was a wrestling booster friend of ours, you know, I mean, and he hired me and showed me the ropes. And in the last 3 years, almost 3 years, I've learned the business world, and I'm so grateful for it. You know what I mean? I've learned about, you know, forecasting, KPIs, all these different things, and it's been awesome to learn. You know, but I same effort that I had when I was competing and training, I put it into learning the business side of it.
Mm.
So I'm doing that, you know, but then I also work with my boys. I help out the wrestling club, but then I also work with uh, former UFC champion Brandon Moreno. I'm his wrestling coach.
Cool.
So in January, we are in Rio, Brazil, and he won a UFC world title.
Wow.
And I'm around him. So the coaching that I do now, it's based on what I want to do. You know what I mean? If it doesn't take away from my boys, me spending time with my boys, then I'll do it. So still involved in wrestling, still, you know, get calls, you know, with recruiting, consulting, stuff like that. Still heavily involved, but not. It's not my career.
Hmm. Do like you mentioned Shaw. He was my homeroom teacher also in sixth grade, and he was those are some good men that you had pour into you early on.
Absolutely. You know, like I said, Coach Lowry, Coach Shaw. I don't know if you remember Boyd Ballard, you know what I mean, was my high school coach, and, you know, he wrestled at Oregon State. You know, he was a U.S. national team member. Like, I credit all those guys still to this day. You know what I mean? Like, every single coach, every level that I was at, I had awesome people. You know what I mean? That helped me. You know, and that's what I want to do. I want to give back. You know what I mean? I want to open doors for other people like they did for me.
Hmm. What just reflecting like I don't want to speak in a negative sense about where we grew up. But I also want to acknowledge that it was pretty rough. I mean, and some people didn't make it out of that trap or that loop, or, what do you think?
It was rough. I mean, there was drugs
Rough.
were drugs. It wasn't like rough, like where you're gonna get like gang violence. It was rough in the fact that drugs were rampant.
Yep.
I mean, alcohol abuse was rampant. I mean, I don't even know what the statistic was, but we were planning our 20-year reunion and we did like a memorial. I think we've lost 20 plus kids,
Yep.
that we went to school. And we're at the time, we were the largest high school in the state.
Yep. Yep.
But like drug abuse was very, very bad. Alcohol, like I don't even know where our parents were because we were, drug use during school, stuff like that. And I think the best thing that I did, is as soon as I graduated, I left.
Yeah.
I graduated and I went to college and I never went back, what I mean? But I would say more than half of my friends had an addiction problem, with pills, with heroin, with all these different things. We've lost, some schoolmates that we've had. It was bad. And I think if I still lived there and didn't have like the ambitions or the goals that I did in the sport, most likely I would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because it's like Groundhog's Day. I mean, there's nothing to do. There's no future. You don't have careers. You're going to do a job. You're going to kind of drown your sorrows, either in a bottle or in drugs. I mean, and I still think it's that way to this day.
Yeah, I think so too.
So it was bad. I mean, and I think the drugs, coming from Seattle and stuff like that, they hit Marysville pretty hard.
Yeah, because it came down through Vancouver, BC, and then came through. I mean, it was kind of both. It's fascinating. I talk about it sometimes to people. Like, I grew up, it was rough. I mean, there's two laws passed in the state of Washington based on two different people that died, that we grew up with, and there's Brady's law and there's Rachel's law, and there's this is some intense stuff. But I'm glad you said that about your, the ambition, because what I've learned is, so I went into the Bible. I went into Christianity really hard. At 20, I attempted suicide, and then God showed up that night and I understood God. I mean, I was raised in the church and played what I call patty cake Christianity, or it's like, I tried my best and I'd pray and go to church, but I didn't really understand God. And when this night I tried to take my own life, drive off the bridge on the flats going to Everett, and I got cut off by the semi truck. The events that unfolded radically forever changed my life. And I started reading the Bible, and I started really reading the Bible, like consuming it. And I joke around, like my brain, I think, broke, or something happened that night that I took my seatbelt off and tried to fly through the windshield, because I couldn't remember prior to that, what I did the day before sometimes, but I could remember the Bible, and it started sticking into my mind. And there's a verse that says, where there's a lack of vision, people perish. And there's another verse that says, hope deferred makes the heart sick. And I started observing culture in that so much of the teaching is trying to go after the heart, change the heart, work with people, how they feel, how do you feel about this and that we can give them some hope. And if they have some hope, then they can get a vision for their future. But what I realized from reading those verses is that without a vision first, we can have no hope. Yeah. And without hope, we only have sick hearts. And with sick hearts, we have a dying culture and dying society and dying relationships and dying family structures. And I love that you have at the forefront of your mind right now still the legacy that you're going to leave, because that's vision.
Yeah.
And that
you got to reverse engineer it.
You do. That's it. Yes. Yeah. I talk about I lead men's retreats now, and I help men understand that. So I define the word legacy in 5 categories. First, our primary relationship with ourself and our spouse. Most men I talk to, they talk about their kids first, but if their marriage isn't solid, the family unit will fall apart eventually.
100%.
So our relationship with our spouse, and that means men or women, husband or wife. Second is our children. So we're husbands first. We're fathers second. We're to like you're doing, raise up your children to leave and to become sovereign, strong, autonomous, well-functioning leaders into this world. Second is health, mind, body, and soul. Third is health. Fourth is our careers. And most men make career their first thing, and maybe their fatherhood second, and maybe their marriage third. It's like, what do you do on this? But career has to be number 4 and keep it number 4. And it's just a means by which, when we get a vision for our life, like the career helps us leave that vision a reality, right? And then fifth is, and you said it so right with your boys, our friends. And I define friendship as anyone who shows you unconditional love.
Yeah.
And that limits the circle pretty quickly, right? That shrinks the pie.
Oh yeah. Yep. And as I got older, I'm content with it.
That's it.
As I got older, I'm content with my circle being small. When I was coaching, I was a public figure. You had to be friends with everybody. You had to, shake hands, stuff like that. Now that I've gotten away, the people that I have are kind of not more important, but they're like higher quality people that I lean on, that we speak daily. Like I'm okay. I have acquaintances outside, obviously, but the circle that I have, I'm content being in the house Friday night, Saturday night. I'm content, being with my family like that. Before I was like, oh, where are we going to go? What are we going to do? Like, we have to be social now, as where I'm at in my life. That list and that breakdown is who I am exactly. I'm happy to hear that that's kind of your philosophy, because I'm going, like I told you, my wife and I, after 3 months, she got pregnant. We're 17-year marriage right now.
Amazing.
And the odds of her getting pregnant after 3 months and that relationship working are very, very slim, very, very low.
Right.
We've actually been together for 20 years, but we've been married for 17. And still to this day, it feels new. It feels fresh. Like, I love her. I adore her. Like, we are still in the honeymoon stage.
Love it.
But, and when we were younger, when we were struggling financially and we had to do all those things, that strengthened our relationship. Now that we're older, financially secure, we appreciate all the little things. We don't like anything that we go through, what we went through as younger couple and parents is easy. We got through that part of our life. Anything that comes our way now is we can handle it.
That's awesome. I love it, man. As we wrap here, just what are some things that, I don't know, stand out to you that you would love to impart to the audience? Is things that you teach your children, things that you teach you taught to your wrestlers, or I don't know, what's some of your philosophy in life, brother?
I think with my children, we're trying our best, and we have the right intentions. But many times I've told them, like, hey, I'm sorry, I probably didn't handle it the right way. Yeah, man. So I've gone to them many times and like, hey, I thought I was, doing it the right way. Maybe I got a little emotional. Maybe this, like, I'm sorry for that. So showing them that I'm not too prideful to admit, when I've messed up, even as their father, has been big, or to my wife, So that's something that I do often. I'm not perfect. I know I've been painting an awesome picture of my life. And it is awesome, but
perfect.
I've made mistakes along the way, and then really helping people. Like, I always try to connect people. I might be really good friends with this person and then this person. And I was like, if there's a way I can connect people and stuff like that, and build our network and help this business person with this or that, like that, like I try to build my network with my network.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, brother. I love you, man. I just honored, man. I feel like we've been hanging out for a long time, but it's such a beautiful thing to connect. And I look forward to seeing you and giving you a massive hug, because that's what I
Yeah,
want to do, is give you a
I
big.
told you I'll be in Dallas, these next couple months, and no doubt about it, I'm going to give you a call. We're going to connect. You know what I
I
mean?
love it.
So I'm looking forward to it. I've always considered you a friend, close friend. You know what I
Thanks,
mean?
man.
Whatever you know happened in your life or whatever, like that to me, none of that matters. You know what I mean? Like,
Thanks, brother.
um, you could always lean on me. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Call. You know what I mean? Bounce ideas, call whatever, and I'll do the same.
thank you. Always, always, brother. Thank you. And thanks for coming on. It means a lot, man, that you've made time, and thank your wife for me, because I know she's holding it down, but I appreciate it, brother.
No, she's a saint. You know what I mean? She's awesome. She's a beautiful person, and I wouldn't be where I'm at without my wife. 100%. My wife, just another, she put her career on hold, for my career, my ambitions of
Mm.
wrestling the Olympics, my ambitions of coaching, and early on in my coaching career, I wanted to go take other opportunities. I mean, we lived in Idaho, Tennessee, Oregon, South Dakota, Montana, Virginia, and then California.
Wow.
And I just kept wanting to like advance my coaching career.
Yeah.
And my wife, I said, hey, I'm thinking about this job. What do you think? The very first time I ever thought about it, my wife said, I don't care where we go. As long as the family's together, I will support your decision.
Beautiful.
From that day on, we've never looked back.
Amazing. Amazing, brother. Well, God bless you. And how can people, I'm going to put your Instagram in the chat so people can reach out, and I hope everyone listening to this just sends this brother love, because he's a good man, and he's making a massive impact with other men in the world. So thank you, brother.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, brother Israel, thank you again for coming on, man. You're a blessing in my life, and I know this is going to bless a lot of people, just hearing your story, hearing your heart. Brothers and sisters, wherever you are watching or listening around the world, it is time right now that what this world is insane. We all can acknowledge that. However, the external world has very little to do with our choice to go internal and do the work on ourselves, to fight, to face that which we're afraid to face. It takes a lot of courage to get on a mat and wrestle another man, another powerful force attacking. Well, there is a powerful force inside you that is actually keeping you from who you want to become. And it's fear, and it's shame, and it's guilt, and it's all those memories that you don't want to face. But until you go back and go within and face that which you have yet to face, you won't be free. You won't be able to step into the fullness of your power, your purpose, and your calling. Just like Israel has had to face those things in his life, all of us get to face those things in our own. So I bless you on your journey of freedom. I'm so honored to have you on this journey with me and brother Israel. Thank you again for coming on. Everyone, I love you. I am Lucas Mack. This is the Golden Rule Revolution, and I will talk to you on the next episode. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for listening. For support in your journey, go to my website, lucasmack.com.